Hello. Holy crap. Okay. Oh my God. I was gonna come home to film this video and I was all excited. I get home, I got this adapter to plug in the camera to charge it while it's filming, and then it doesn't even work. So I just spent like 45 minutes trying to figure out this battery. Also, I'm wearing a turtleneck. Listen, I worked all day and I was like, I'm gonna film this sit down video right after I get home from work because at least I'll like look somewhat decent. Listen, my street style is not even remotely close to what I wear to work. What I wear to work and what I wear on the outside of work is two totally different people. And so I just thought I would look nice and wear my work clothes for the video. But I think it looks fine. What's up? Welcome to my channel. My name is Casey and I make videos about recovery because I'm an alcoholic. I wanted this to be one of my first videos I made. I did make a vlog yesterday, but that's a different story. Listen, I got really excited about the camera. I just wanted to try it out, do something fun. It's a very short video. Check it out if you want. I walk around the city all the time, so I took you along and yeah, it was a fun day. Anyways, this video, as you can tell by the title, I wanted this to be one of my first videos because I think the story and why I got sober is super important. You know, I feel like it's a great place to start, right? Why I got sober. It's a great story. Stick around. That being said, where do I even start? Here's the thing about this video is I don't even know, like, how do I tell my whole entire story in like a 20-minute video? I mean, I don't want this to be like an hour long. Here's the reason why I feel like I should just put out there why I decided to start making YouTube videos. I love YouTube. I absolutely love watching YouTubers, and I love video editing and I love videography, and I always thought it would be fun to make YouTube videos. I never knew what the hell I was gonna talk about. When I got sober, I realized that maybe it would be a good idea to make videos and tell my story. Number one, because when I search for like sobriety related videos on YouTube, I don't really see specifically what I'm looking for. And what I mean by that is my story is unique to me, obviously. But when I try to find videos related to my personal experience, they are hard to find. So I just thought maybe I'll just make videos about it myself. So here's a disclaimer. I'm gonna talk about touchy subjects: drugs, alcohol, addiction, self-harm, maybe a little bit of eating disorders, but I'm not gonna get too much into that. I really just want this to be why I got sober. So let's get into it right now. I got sober, well, I can't even answer like when I got sober because there's so many, like I tried and I stopped and I tried and I stopped. So, or I tried and I went back to drinking and then I tried again and then I was sober for a while and then it finally stuck. So it stuck finally a year ago. Actually, my sober date is 4/28/20. And today's the 26th. And yes, it's the 26th. So I got sober a year ago in 2 days essentially, but I'm going to upload this on my 1 year sober anniversary. So I got sober last year. It finally stuck. Before that, I tried to get sober on my birthday in 2019, September of 2019, and I went 7 months, and then I relapsed last year on April 25th through the 27th, and then my day one was April 28th, which brings me right here, baby. You know, wait, I don't want to go too far back, but my first drink was 13. I was hanging out with a friend. We were at her house and we stole some of her mom's alcohol. You know, like I feel like everyone has done that. I drank a little bit. I didn't party a whole lot after that. I started drinking heavily in 17, 18. It's a really funny story because I had just won Miss Michigan Teen, literally. My camera is sitting on my crown box. I'm 27 now, so just to give you an idea of where we're at in this life. So I was around 17 or 18 and I started partying really hard. Now, I started blacking out like right away. I was the kind of person that couldn't get enough. I don't know what the feeling was about partying. I just wanted to do it more and more and more. So I started doing that. And then it just kind of progressed throughout the year. And the next thing you know, the following year, like right after I had passed on my crown as Miss Michigan, I got 2 MIPs. Now an MIP is a minor in possession of alcohol. If you're in Michigan, I don't know if it's the same in every state, if that's what it's called, but that's what happened to me. And it was miserable. I was on probation for like a year after that, and I had to go to AA meetings, which I hated. And I remember going to AA meetings and thinking, these people are messed up. Like, oh, it's like I'm never gonna be that person. So it's just funny how that happens when you're a kid or you're young and you're like, oh my gosh, like all these people, they're crazy, or like older people, I'm never gonna be like that, and then you turn into that. Yeah, I obviously didn't learn my lesson then, and after the probation ended, well, I still drank while I was on probation. One thing I never really liked, though, I guess I'll bring it up, is weed. I never loved it. Like, I did smoke it occasionally, but I mean, it was never really my thing. So, I mean, it was super easy for me to not do. I pretty much just did it if other people were around me doing it. So, after I graduated high school, I went right into the restaurant industry. I worked at probably 10 different restaurants throughout my life, and I was serving and bartending in, if you all know, the food industry, the food service industry. If you work in the food service industry, late nights are very common. I guess it depends on the restaurant you work at, but most restaurants, it's late nights and then you all hang out and you all go party. That's like just what you do. At least in the restaurants I worked in, that's what I did. So it was really, I got really caught up in it after that, because after high school, I didn't go to college. I went for like a semester or two and didn't really like it. I liked drinking more. So I just kind of let that take over my life, and I I was drinking every single day from the time I moved out of my house at like 19 or 20, and I was bartending at the time, and I was drinking every single day, just doing really stupid stuff. I mean, like, I think back to the things that I did or like don't remember doing in the situations I put myself in, and it was very chaotic. I was going to house parties all the time with a bunch of people I didn't know. I saw a lot of traumatic things happen to people, and you know, a lot of traumatic stuff happened to me in those times. But the alcohol, it was such a numbing experience, and I was really depressed after high school. I went through a really bad breakup in high school, and by bad breakup, I mean it like really like ripped my heart out, and it affected me horribly for some reason. So I think I turned to drinking and partying, and I wanted to be so far away from that situation that I just used every chance that I got to run away from those feelings, because it was a really, really painful experience. And I don't know why. I mean, I was young, I guess, but I was it just affected me for some reason really harshly. So being young and the only thing that I knew that made me feel better at that point was just drinking and partying, and I got caught up in a lot of situations because of that. So it took me a few years, or I worked for a few years at different restaurants, so 2020, 21, 22, and the drinking, it just didn't stop. And I was also, I was working at a restaurant and I was hungover every single day that I was working, and then going out and partying some more. Now I would take probably like one day off. Like if I was super hungover, then I would like not drink for the next day. And then like as soon as I felt better, I would start drinking again. Now when I was like 22, I met this guy and we started dating, and he kind of taught me what hair of the dog was, basically, which is when you're hungover, you just drink more and then you feel better. And yes, that absolutely worked. And that's when I was 22, that's when my drinking went to like a whole new level. So I was working at this restaurant, drinking every single night, waking up hungover. I would work like a day shift and then immediately start drinking right after work. So I did that for a couple more years. And I barely was hanging on to this job now, this restaurant that I worked at. I was barely hanging on to it. I was calling off all the time. And the stupidest thing is that I told myself that I just had health problems. And that was my thing. I like truly believed that like, oh my gosh, I'm having all these health problems, when really I'm just hungover all the time and like too sick from being hungover to work, and then too drunk as well to do anything else. So of course I was sick. I had health problems because I was drinking. It was also around this time when I was like 23, I want to say, that I was introduced to drugs, mainly cocaine, and that became my next drug of choice. So it was alcohol and then cocaine, Adderall, Vyvanse, anything like that is what I like to do, because it kept me going and it kept me awake, because I was literally drinking so much that I was just sleepy all the time too. I mean, my body was like wanting to shut down pretty much. So this relationship that I was in, I finally got out of, but it was a really toxic, abusive relationship. So from around like 22 to 24 is how long that one lasted. And then I was still trying to do the restaurant things. I had been fired from 2 restaurants for drinking on the job and then being too hungover and calling in all the time. So at that point I finally moved to Kalamazoo. Now this is where the story gets a little interesting, because I started working at this restaurant. On one of my days off, I went with a friend to the restaurant and I passed out like at the table, like fell asleep at the table. It didn't help my situation, I guess. After I moved, shortly after, like a couple weeks after I moved, something that I was interested in for a little while, stripping. I remember I was like so sick of working at this place. I actually like didn't like anybody really that I worked with there. They were like a bunch of young girls and they were really like cliquey. So I only had like one friend there, but I ended up just calling in one day, and then the next day I went to the local club there and I auditioned and I started dancing that weekend. When I started dancing at 24, that was the start of my rock bottom, looking back on it. Going to work, it was a party. So I would go into work at like 9 p.m., 8 or 9 p.m. and work until like 5 a.m. I would drink the whole time. Drugs were available pretty much everywhere you looked in the club. And it was now I don't want to say like that dancing is a bad job. I want to say dancing is not a bad job. It's bad for an alcoholic. I mean, unless you really can be around it at all times and like not give into it, I just personally, there's no way. So, but it allowed me to like basically spiral out of control. I mean, at this point, I was drinking when I got up in the morning, and I couldn't really do anything I couldn't get up in the morning and function if I didn't start drinking immediately. I mean, like, I was drinking all day, every single day, not a day off. At this point, I had gone years now without ever taking a day off of drinking. I was kind of like spiraling. After a few months of that, so I danced for, well, kind of, because here's the thing, I could barely hang on to that job, even though I was only working like twice a week. Because I would go in, party, and then have to like take a few days off because number one, like dancing in general is just really hard on your body. So I was doing that on top of not really eating and then just drinking and doing drugs like the whole time. So I was falling apart. I was literally falling apart. And I hit a point after maybe like a couple of months where I wasn't even like going into work anymore. I just didn't care about anything. The only thing I was doing was waking up, drinking, going out every single day, and eating like shit and gaining weight. I stopped dancing, and then I started working at this other restaurant. I got so depressed. It's like I hit this bottom that was so hard. And I remember every single time that I drank would just end in me like on the floor, like sobbing hysterically, just absolutely hating myself. Like it's so sad to think about how much I hated myself, because now I don't hate myself, but like I had no idea who I was back then because I didn't do anything. I did nothing except for drink. And there's things I thought about that I wanted to do and things that I wanted, and I pictured myself looking a certain way, but I mean, I couldn't do any of it because all of my energy was consumed and drained out because of all of the substances that I was putting into my body. Now that lasted for a few more months, and I started turning to self-harm. It was like really awful. I mean, I would drink every single day, and every single night I would end up like hurting myself because I hated myself so much. And I just grew more and more violent towards myself, and I would get so angry. It's like I would drink, and every time I drank, like my emotions would just like go so crazy. And I took it all out on my boyfriend and myself. I struggled so hard. I mean, I just felt like, I remember feeling like just so, like my skin was so puffy, and I just felt so foggy, and I just had this lingering like fog at all times. I mean, I was getting up in the morning and drinking almost immediately. I mean, like I literally couldn't move until I drank something. And I remember like my boyfriend, I would tell him like I need like something in order to get out of bed, and he would be like going to the store and getting me a bottle of wine so I could like chug a glass of wine and like finish the bottle and then go back out again. Like it wasn't a good situation, and I was stuck in that cycle. So this was 2018, and I was still working at this restaurant, super depressed, fighting all the time with my boyfriend, and you know, we were just really struggling all around. I was just making stupid decisions, letting people into my life that had no business being in my life. There's a lot of things I look back on and I absolutely regret. Things I said, things I did, just most of it. So fast forward a little bit, this would be now spring of 2019, the first time that I finally started to become like sober curious, I guess is the word. So I worked at this restaurant still, living in Kalamazoo, and one of the chefs there was talking about how he was sober for like the past year, and I kept hearing him mention it in conversations that you know, we would talk, or like that I would overhear him say, and I was like, sober? Like, at that point I kind of thought that I had a problem because it was just so bad at that point. Like, I ignored it for so long, or like didn't think that alcohol and drugs were the problem, and then I finally clicked, like, maybe it's that, maybe it's alcohol. I asked him about it one day. I was just like, you're sober, so like, tell me about it. Or how did you know you had a problem, is what I asked him, I think. And he told me, and it sounded a lot like what I was doing. So I asked him, like, you know, what he does now to stay sober. And so he invited me to an AA meeting, and I went, and I got like my 24-hour chip that I still have. And that was in like March of 2019. I was sober. I went to his meetings on Sundays, and I was sober for 21 days or 22 days or something like that. But that was the first time I felt like the fog lifting, and I felt like I got like a glimpse of like, wow, like I am starting to like myself. I feel so different. Like the puffiness in my face went away, and like my eyes looked different, and I just looked so much better. I mean, I have one picture from that 3 weeks that I was sober, and like all the other pictures around that time, and there's such a huge difference in just my face. So, but after that 3 weeks, something, you know, I was just like, no, like, I don't think this is for me. Like, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I don't think I'm an alcoholic. That's literally what I thought. Like, everything's working amazing. Like, I look great, I feel great. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. Like, I'm gonna have this glass of wine. I remember my boyfriend and I were visiting Detroit, looking for a place to live because we were about to move to Detroit in like a month. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna have this glass of wine. Like, I hate this. Like, this isn't me. This isn't me. Anyways, well, this is all part of the journey, so. So I did, and then, you know, it just quickly went right back to exactly what it was before. Out of control drinking all day, every day kind of thing. After we moved to Detroit a month later, I was working at another restaurant. I worked there for like a little while. It just got so bad. Like, I couldn't even work. And so I ended up quitting, and I was thinking, you know what? I'm gonna just go back to dancing. Like, I thought that was my calling, and I was like, here I go, I'm going back. I spent that summer of 2019, dancing, miserable, drinking. I got bronchitis for a month straight. My body was so sick. And I was hanging out with people that it wasn't good. The people I was hanging out with, it was like totally doing all the wrong things. At this point, I mean, that summer was probably like the worst of it. And I would wake up drink, go run a couple errands, get ready for work, drinking the whole time. And then my boyfriend would drop me off at the club. Immediately, I would have at least like 4 or 5 drinks by the time I got to the club, just to feel normal. And sometimes after that, I didn't even feel normal. Like, I still needed more. I would drink the whole night, and at 2 a.m. is when the club closed. And then I would sometimes like go home, or I would go out to an after hours club. I started doing that towards the end, and I would be there until like 9 a.m. It was, I don't know why. I mean, I was running from something again. Like, all of these, every time I drank, it's like all of these emotions would just pour out, and I was so angry. I was so angry and violent when I drank, and that is so not me. Like, as a person, as a sober person, like, I'm not violent. It was just embarrassing, and I reached a point where finally, at the end of the summer, I reached a point where I just kind of had enough. Like, I was just done feeling like that and feeling miserable. So at that point, right towards, I mean, throughout the summer, but more towards the end, like, I was locking myself in the bathroom, like drinking. We would drink, like my boyfriend and I, and then I would, you know, we would fight, and then I would lock myself in the bathroom, and like with like a knife. I hurt myself so much because I hated myself so much. And I remember like looking in the mirror, just crying, like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life right now? Like, I'm so unhappy. But I just kept drinking and using, and so I reached a point finally one night. I'd like gotten home, I'd been out at the after hours club, and Rick left. My boyfriend left. He left our apartment. He was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I mean, I think he put up with it for way longer than he should have, but he finally just said like this is totally it. Like, I'm 100% done with this unless you get sober. Like, we can't drink. Like, you can't drink. So I came home from the after hours club at like, I want to say it was like 10 a.m., 9 or 10 a.m. I got home and I was so depressed and I was crying. And I remember sitting in bed and I pulled up a video on YouTube, and it was Brandon Novak, and it was his like whole recovery story, and it was like an hour and a half long. And if you haven't watched it, you should definitely go watch it, because I watched it and I cried and I cried, and I watched it like 3 times that morning. I just knew, like, in that moment, I knew that I didn't have a choice at this point. Like, I had to get sober and I had to get serious, like do it like cold turkey. Like, I'm done drinking, done doing all of that. I knew that that's what I had to do if I wanted to be happy and if I wanted a life that was worth living. I knew I had to, number one, stop dancing. So I quit dancing and I got a job at this really lovely little burger joint. Honestly, it was one of my favorite restaurants I ever worked at, and I was sober. So this was on my birthday. It was September of 2019. But I started working at that restaurant a little earlier. I wasn't completely sober when I started that restaurant, so I quit dancing because I knew that in order to get sober, I had to be out of the club. And then I thought, still at this point, I thought, well, maybe I'll have like 1 beer after work. Anyways, 1 beer turned into a bad night, and then I went to visit my parents with my boyfriend in Florida on my birthday in September. I was sitting with my mom on the porch or on their little back patio area, and my birthday was the next day, and we had been drinking that day, and I had had like a few glasses of wine or something like that, and I remember telling her, I don't want to drink anymore, and she knew it. Like, she did wanted me to stop drinking like forever ago, but she didn't know how to tell me. She was like, tomorrow, like, I was like, it's my birthday tomorrow and I don't want to drink, and I just, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm so unhappy. Like, I didn't go into all the details with her in that moment, but she just knew, like, my mom and I are best friends and she can basically like read my mind. So she was just like, I won't drink with you tomorrow. Like, let's not drink. Like, we'll go out to eat and we'll just get good food, and I'll support you. Like, I won't drink with you. And so that's what we did. That first day wasn't necessarily hard because I, like, at that point I didn't even want to drink. Like, I just wanted to have a good day. So that was okay. I didn't plan for that day to be like the start of like a long-term sober journey, but it just kind of like happened that way. Like, I knew it's what I needed to do. I didn't know it was gonna be like on my birthday. We went out and we got sushi, and it was my dad and my mom and my boyfriend and I, and then a couple of my parents' friends. Like, we went out after a couple days in Florida. We flew back home, Rick and I. From that point on, I was sober. I changed my job. I was working at a different restaurant, but then I got a job working at a great company. It's like a 9-to-5 kind of job. It's in an office, which is what I wanted. I wanted like the benefits of like a, office job, and it's something I wanted for a long time. So I finally like got that kind of job, and I was sober and I was going to the gym every day. Rick was also sober. He got sober at the same time to support me. He's not an alcoholic, prefers not to drink though. I'll just put it that way. So I'm very, very lucky in that aspect, because I don't think I could do it if I didn't have that kind of support. He made that choice to support me, which I think is like literally, it's amazing. Anyways, so I was sober during this whole time, and this is like the winter, like right before COVID hit. So this is 2019 into 2020. So I'm like sober, I'm doing it, I'm feeling really good. I'm hitting like 1 month, 2 month, 3 months. I remember on my 3-month sober day, we went out to get sushi. I felt really good, and then 4 months, 5 months hit. That was when COVID hit, so I started working from home. I don't know if like quarantine is what really affected me so much. I think it was the fact that I was being sober and not working any kind of program. Now, I'm not saying that you have to like go to AA for sobriety to stick, but that's what I needed. And I didn't do anything the first time around. So I hit 7 months sober on April 20th of 2020. I was absolutely miserable for the last like 3 months. The only thing I could think about was drinking. The only thing I could think about was going back to my old life. I remember driving to work before quarantine hit, and like every day I would cry on the way to work because like I was like grieving my old life and I wanted it back for some reason. That's just what addiction does to you. I mean, my addiction speaks to me in my own voice. Like, it's so hard to... I didn't know that that was my addiction, like, really talking to me during that time. Like, you know, I, like, missed it. I, like, missed all of it. So I finally, like, broke down on 5 days after I hit 7 months sober. I called up a friend and I told Rick, I was like, I'm done, like, we're done. I don't want to be with you anymore. Like, and I just wanted to go drink is what I wanted to do. Ugh. It's awful how much like I push people away that really love me and that I love. I left for the whole weekend. I'm really lucky I didn't, I mean, it was only a couple of days, but I thought for sure like, nope, I'm done here. Like, I'm going back to it. I'm going back to it. Back to dancing, back to the life in the middle of quarantine. Like, that's what I thought was gonna happen. Well, let me tell you, the entire time I was drinking, I was absolutely miserable. It was terrible. So it was 3 days. 3 days later, I came home with my tail between my legs, felt like shit, I looked like shit, and I walked in. I didn't know how I was going to scrape everything up and make it all better, but I knew that when I came home that I never wanted to feel like that again. Whatever I thought I was missing was not something that I wanted anymore. I just knew in that moment that I wanted to live a life that I loved. I wanted to love myself and I wanted to have a fulfilling life, and I knew that drugs and alcohol were just not going to be an option for me. The very next day, I went to an online Zoom meeting. I didn't know like how AA worked. I've never worked the steps before, and I just thought like, I'm gonna do absolutely everything that it takes to stay sober. I owe it to myself. I need to prove it to myself, but I'm going to literally do anything at this point. I started going to AA. I met my sponsor at that meeting that I went to, and I started immediately meeting with her weekly, and I started going to 3 to 4 AA meetings a week on Zoom. The first week was absolutely the hardest because I was still hungover from relapsing. I was hungover for 6 days, and I didn't feel normal until probably 2 weeks after drinking. That was the longest I'd ever had a hangover in my life. It was miserable because I didn't know if my boyfriend was even gonna like take me back. Like, I essentially broke up with him and left for the weekend. I didn't know if I was going to be able to mend that relationship. And I had no idea what was gonna happen. But I started immediately working on the steps with my sponsor. Slowly over time, my boyfriend trusted me again, and he was there to support me through all of that, which I didn't think that I deserved at the time. I didn't even think that I deserved to go to that AA meeting that I went to on day 1, but I did it. I did it, and I felt so amazing. I've been going to AA meetings every week ever since then. My mental health within the first month was better than it had ever been in my whole life. I'm not saying that you have to do AA. For me, it absolutely saved my life. You have to work really hard at it is the thing. It's always gonna be like that. It doesn't matter what you do in sobriety, in your recovery. It's hard work, whether you're in AA or not. You have to do some kind of work. You can't just stop drinking or using and then, you know, never work on anything ever again, and then you're just normal. It's not like you just quit and then it's fine. It's work every single day. Even though my mental health is really great, and in this past year has literally been the best year of my life, there are still times that my addiction will talk to me and try to entice me to drink again. I know now what that is, and I have tools to work through that. I know it gets easier through time, obviously, but it's gonna be work forever, I think. So, but now I'm gonna be hitting 1 year sober in 2 days, and I literally couldn't be happier or more proud of myself. I'm like choking up. Or more grateful. I literally couldn't be more grateful for the life that I have and that I worked for throughout the past year. I wake up and I look around at what I have in my life, the people I have. I have 2 kitty cats, 2 cats, a little house in a beautiful city, and I have an amazing job, a wonderful boyfriend who's extremely supportive. My family is so supportive. My friends are incredible. There's literally nothing else I'd rather be doing. So if you're struggling, I just want you to know that you have the power to literally turn your life around. And it just starts with doing the next right thing. Just if you fucked up or you feel like shit or your life isn't going the way you want it to go, just focus on doing what is the next right thing that you can do. Because that's what I do every day. I'm sober and I still mess up and I say the wrong thing and I, still make mistakes. It's not like I stop drinking and all my problems disappear either. But I know that all you can do is just do the next right thing, and eventually everything will just fall into place. I waited so long to tell that story, and from the very beginning, the very first time I ever got sober, I remember envisioning what I would be like and what I would look like when I finally hit like 1 year sober. And I remember it feeling like so far away. I remember thinking like, how could I ever be that person? Looking back at the person that I wanted to be, like I thought it was so unattainable, but now I am that person that I envisioned myself being. So it's like the most incredible feeling in the entire world. And I'm proud of myself and I love myself. It's great. It's amazing. So that's the story. I want to definitely like go into more details of like different parts of my story with more videos. So if you want to see more in-depth videos about things I've been through and my recovery journey, then please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, tell me what you're struggling with, tell me your story, share with me how many days sober you are or years, and stay sober and stay sassy.